Hello everyone and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. Today is the release of the 18th album of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds called Wild God. And while I did a review on that record yesterday, the question is, where does it rank among the records of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds? So today I'm going to be ranking all 18 of their albums. And without further ado, I'm going to kicking off this list with Kicking Against the Pricks on number 18. Now, with most artists, you'd think that the lowest one on the list, especially if you have 18 albums, is a bad album. That's not the case with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Kicking Against the Pricks is not a bad album. It is just my least favorite, and it's also Nick Cave's least favorite. This record is full with cover songs, and I don't think they always fit. But this record was very important for the development of the band. That's what Nick Cave later on stated. Because of these cover songs, they could try different angles and explore more sides. So they would eventually lose the title of being a novelty act. Nevertheless, there are some interesting moments here. Does it work in its entirety? No, a lot of moments don't really work. But it's not a bad album. At number 18, Kicking Against the Pricks. At number 17, honestly, this is far from a bad album. We are already in territory of good albums. Nocturama on number 17. Nocturama is a good record. The only thing why it's so low on the list is this is the least daring of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I did enjoy it, and it gets put down way too often. Well, stating that and putting at 17, that might be a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction if you look at the quality of these albums. Actually, side C here, Babe I'm on Fire, it's really nice. And in a CD era to have a good side C, oh, that's rare. Nocturama is pretty good. At number 17, at number 16, I'm putting the first record of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, From Her to Eternity. Now, this record is daring. It is adventurous. It is the first time to get an album of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I really love the artwork here. This look, this blank look. This is a look of intelligence and a look of frustration. I love it. Opening with Avalanche, including the wonderful song From Her to Eternity, which became a live classic for the Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Yeah, we are already in very, very good territories here. With at number 16, From Her to Eternity. Number 15, for some people, this is already cursing. Putting this at number 15. This is actually in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. And it's a really good album. Henry's Dream. Henry's Dream is a very good album. It's very coherent. It sounds so strange to me also doing this, talking about the number 15. The number 15, and then we're already in this incredible territory. Papa Won't Leave You, Henry. That's a really good song. Jack the Ripper's here. Now I also have to explain why just at 15. It's a good record. It's coherent. It is ranked in 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Perhaps it's just not as dangerous as other albums. Yeah, it really feels like trying to find arguments why it shouldn't be higher, but there are 14 arguments after this, 14 albums, which are also incredible. And I'm going to move to that. And at number 14, this is also going to put some people down. But this is for me is personal. And initially, I thought I would have put this record even lower because in the video I did about it, I did also full videos for every album. I was admiring this album, but I found it tough to relate to. And since that review, it has grown on me. So it's just grown in the list. And it might very well be that in a year from now, this record will grow more. But I'm going to tell you, Skeleton Tree. But hear me out. This record is very personal from Nick Cave, and it should hit you personal. And I find it hard to open up because of the immense amount of pain and um, the closeness, the intimacy with which he makes the listener part of it. I find it more so for personal reasons hard to let this in. So perhaps Nick Cave would say let love in or let grief in. Yet I must say that the song Distant Sky, it has been in my mind ever since the video about this album. We're in really, really good territory here. Number 14, Skeleton Tree. At number 13, yeah, this is great. This is a great album. Dig, Lazarus, Dig. I wasn't expecting a lot from this, but this is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds story of Lazarus. Now, Lazarus set in a modern day New York, and it's energetic, it's full, it's wild, it's adventurous. They said that it was also inspired by the Grinderman period or the Grinderman recordings, trying to get more of a garage rock sound. I do understand that, but still, I mean, the last 20, 25 years, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds has a good studio sound. Full, warm. I would not qualify this as a as a garage rock. And with garage rock, I think about the Ramones, which was recorded in a garage. This is way too stylized to be garage rock. So at number 13, Dig, Lazarus, Dig. At number 12, this one really hit me. The Firstborn is Dead. Now, this has just some crazy strong, good storytelling going on. The atmosphere, the sense of a Nick Cave reinvention of the Wild West, of blues elements. This record to me sounds like the banging on chains. Dirty, but prison story dirty. Like the people who in prison survive and get an image by telling each other the stories of what they've done, of how tough they are, and how rough the world can be. As a matter of fact, the title, The Firstborn is Dead, references the brother of Elvis, because Elvis was initially a twin, and the firstborn, the one just seconds before Elvis, did not live. Just he didn't live to see the day, and that's where it refers to. Later on, the title, of course, became much heavier in the discography of Nick Cave the Bad Seeds. So at number 12, The Firstborn is Dead. At number 11, this is something in my top 5 of Nick Cave albums was already in that list. This used to be, it still is, one of my favorite Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds albums. But we are in territory of greatness here. So on 11, Tender Prey. It was, I believe, also actually my first Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds album. I discovered it around the time that I discovered Push the Sky Away. Now, why at 11 for something that I love so much? The Love are the first 3 songs. It's a more than okay album for the rest, but the first 3 songs are great. Up Jump the Devil is good. Diana is good. The Mercy Seat is one of the best songs ever written. This flame of associations while the main character is going on the electric chair, it is just wild. It's daring. It's dangerous. And Nick Cave has insights. He can create that moment as some films do. It reminds me of, for example, Paths of Glory, the Stanley Kubrick film, in which, there is an execution. And Kubrick nails those last moments before the execution. It reminds me of Carl Theodor Dreyer's 1928 silent film La Passion de Jeanne d'Arc, uh, about the trial of Joan of Arc. And those moments, getting into the head of somebody who is being executed, and the point of views. In that film by Dreyer, you see Jeanne d'Arc looking at the sky, and just before things go bad, she sees pigeons. And just that image of pigeons, that those normal images and the thoughts that hang on to that are there at the last moments. It's that stream of consciousness which is in Tender Prey of the Mercy Seat. Brilliantly written, brilliantly recorded. And I always thought it works in the way it's produced, but if you listen to live renditions of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, or even Nick Cave solo, or even Johnny Cash, you can hear its greatness. An incredible song. Very good album. At 11, Tender Prey. Now this is so difficult. At number 10, And No More Shall We Part. If you have seen the video I made about this record, I had some notes about it. I thought the record is going on for too long, so why put it at 10? Well, because when No More Shall We Part is strong, it is incredible. It is just hitting the nail on its head, as no one can do that beside Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Opening with, as I said, Sadly by Her Side, which has melodies that are so gorgeous, and then a just sober or kicked off of heroin Nick Cave doing And No More Shall We Part. This was one of the biggest steps towards a new level of fragility and intimacy. It's just so good. Hallelujah. Oh my Lord, God is in the house. That's a very good song. Oh yeah. No More Shall We Part is incredible. At number 10, No More Shall We Part. At number 9, The Good Son. The Good Son. Recorded by Nick Cave, that was actually happy. He had an affair or a relationship. Let's give it the right word. Relationship with a woman in Brazil. So this record was partially recorded in Sao Paulo, and you can hear a complete different influence there of the Brazilian jazz influence, Brazilian folk influences going on here, which never happened before, never happened after. It's something I would not think of when talking about Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds yet, and that's the brilliant power when a new influence happens to walk by. They take it in a very strange manner, and they intertwine it in their style, so it will not become a rip-off, or you have the idea that they're working in a different genre. No, it becomes part of the whole. And there are so many good songs here. The Good Son itself, the Weeping Song, that is incredible. The Ship Song is also so good. The melodies here are just mesmerizingly good. So at number 9, The Good Son. We're going to number 8. Yeah. On number 8, actually 2 albums, because these are 2 albums. Abattoir Blues and The Lyre of Orpheus. This is an epic. This is an incredible epic, starting off with a blues rock sort of album. Abattoir Blues contains a Bad Seeds that we have not heard for quite a while at this moment in the career. But it's not purely the 80s Bad Seeds. They have also changed. They have become perhaps smarter, more nuanced, I've been looking for the right words to describe it because there's also a raw power and a raw energy in the early records that should be treasured. And that is somewhat here, but not yet the same. And that's so good. And then the other side, the Lyre of Orpheus. Great storytelling. He slows it down ballad wise. We get a myth, but a myth according to Nick Cave. So he changes elements in the story. He makes the main character in a certain way resemble what I might imagine he is like. But then again, who knows? Because one of the greatest myth makers is Nick Cave. At number 7. So, we have arrived. No. This was number 8. Now number 7. Double checking. Yes. Now number 7. At number 7, Wild God. Just released. I'm holding it here. This is an amazing album. This is, in a certain way, a reinvention of Nick Cave and the Wild Seeds. In what way? Well, yesterday I did a full-on review about the album, so if you'd like to see me go into more detail, please take a look at that video. In a certain way, this is Ghosteen but happy. How can that be? How can somebody who has been in so much mourning and who feels the gravity of life so intensely be at this stage happy? Well, the mourning and the understanding of the gravity has led into new insights. And we still have an orchestra. We still have the bad seats. We still have an ambient-like structure, but we have different kind of lyrics. We have a Nick Cave that embraces hope and seems happy to be alive. And seems happy to be alive knowing, having, and working with the troubles that are there, with the sorrow, with the misery. Happy to be alive, accepting even all the misery. Well, tell me which artist has done that before. This is emotionally and philosophically something only great artists can ever touch. Seriously. At number 7, Wild God. At number 6, Let Love In. This is a very special album. Just as with Wild God, he reinvented pronouncing the state he was in, making music about a tough moment and drawing the audience close. Same thing here with Let Love In. This resembles the Aladdin Sane cover of David Bowie, which is actually Aladdin Insane. And Bowie was in his cocaine phase. Nick Cave had a very hard time with heroin at this moment. And heroin distances one. I've made a documentary about a heroin addict here in the Netherlands. His name is actually Herman Brood, very good musician. And his girlfriend told me about the distance heroin gave him and the confidence. It's a fake way of getting even with yourself. So having that story and having those emotions here, but with the element of Let Love In. So knowing that there is this wall, that there is this vagueness, there's this distance, but a longing for getting closer. What a great story. Opening with Do You Love Me, ending with Do You Love Me. Great bookends. Lay Me Low. Ain't Gonna Rain No More. Red Right Hand. That's an incredible song. What an album. At number 6, Let Love In. At number 5, I never thought I would put this here. I never thought it. And looking at it now, I even wonder why at number 5. Honestly, I don't. It's so tough because all of these records speak for themselves. It's not as with other bands that have the same essence and they just pronounce it differently and sometimes better than another time, and in which there is a very clear period in which they were better than in other periods. Nick Cave doesn't have that. He doesn't. I mean, they have been making music for more than 40 years now. And for 40 years, they have been surprising. I mean, the only moment when it didn't work was number 18. And they are constantly reinventing themselves, but also becoming a genre in themselves. So it's so tough to rank these. But I stand by the list. I stand by what I'm saying, but it's sometimes so tough to pronounce because it is also a matter of emotion. And just last week, I've been growing closer to this one as well, Ghosteen. There is a brilliance going on here. Fragility, I use that word a lot with Nick Cave. An honestness. But also an honestness which leads to a poetry, which leads to a romance, while he's actually talking about horror, about one of the most horrible things that can happen to a human being. So, how to understand that honesty if he also grabs to poetry, or are we listening to, as a listener, a part of the process of trying to get the story in his head and in his heart right? Are we listening to a process of accepting? I think the answer is yes. And Ghosteen brings us to places that are knowing the story, of course, about his son who died, who fell from the cliffs. It is, I find it hard to put it on. But already here, there is a search for hope and for understanding and for continuing. That makes this such a strong and unique record. Talking about it, just after talking about Wild God and about Skeleton Tree, it might seem like it's the same narrative, but it's not. It's a development. We are part of a human development about thought processes, about emotions that are constantly changing and shaping. And it's just an honor to be part of that. And Ghosteen is one of the most intimate moments with regard to that. So on number 5, Ghosteen. On number 4, this one took me by surprise. Your Funeral, My Trial. A double EP released as an album. And I like this also for a certain aesthetic. Not only aesthetic, it's more than that. This contains some of the best songwriting ever done by Nick Cave. For example, Sad Waters to Carry. It's the, Your Funeral, My Trial, Stranger Than Kindness. There is so much incredible writing going on here. And the sound of this, the way the rawer, younger Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds was recorded, it's just incredible. Also, the way it's pressed, the 45 RPM, which gives you such a wide sound stage. This, for me, is the highlight of 80s Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds. And that period says so much. It's so unique. It's so strange to realize that this is where they came from. Looking at Wild God and Ghosteen, this is such a beautiful, pure post-punk album. They were already discovering new territories here. And just sheer songwriting talent. The idea of writing a song and that anyone could cover it and the song remains. The last couple of years, they trust more on the personality of Nick Cave, and it's great songwriting. But the songs become more like a record becomes more like a novel. told to you by a very important writer and speaker, like with Truman Capote. If you take Truman Capote out of In Cold Blood, the story is just different. It becomes a simple cold, how do you say, not a cold case, because the crime is solved. It becomes, um, well, like the genre we see on television. It is the narrator, the storyteller, who makes it special. That's where Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds have been going the last couple of years. This is the story itself, the song itself. You cannot harm it. It's so solid, good. At number 4, at number 3, the Boatman's Call. After so many years of strong, forceful, big band sound, big band, not like in the big band, but the Bad Seeds being a big band, you get this record so intimate, opening with Into My Arms. I don't believe in an interventionist God. One of the strongest lines to ever open an album. This is solid, good, intimate. Not too long, not too long. It just stays on. Very strong. Brompton Oratory, People Ain't No Good. So many great songs. Idiot Prayer. Actually, what I've also been describing with the other record, Your Funeral, My Trial. The sheer power of the songwriting here is just spot on. It's incredible. Yeah. At number 3, Boatman's Call. At number 2, Murder Ballads. Murder Ballads. I mean, again, the amount of incredible songs. This just is banger after banger after banger after banger. And that theme to talk about murder ballads, the old genre in which troubadours would come to a town, see a hanging, and write a song about the murder that the the hanged man, mostly men, did. He gets so fierce. Stagger Lee is so. I love the song Stagger Lee because Cave took a risk, and you can see an article or a response of his on the current cancel culture on his website with regard to the question of a good friend of his, who's also on his album, by the way, the singer of. Now, I did a video on him, an in memoriam about him. Strange, isn't it, that somebody you've been thinking about so often, you just can't get the name right. Shane MacGowan. Shane MacGowan is on this album. He sings on this album, but Nick Cave was defending Shane MacGowan's use of a certain word. I can't say it on YouTube. In the Christmas song, and he also talks about Stagger Lee in that regard. Like the song is never to blame. You might blame an artist. I think you can't blame him. I think that Nick Cave is writing out of the thought process of his character, and he nails his character. He did do a good song, and people might be insulted, but songs can be insulting. That doesn't mean they are racist or anything. It's just a daring song that fits the mindset of the main character. And I think it's very important to understand it because songs can draw us closer to different people, different kinds of mindsets. Stagger Lee is a masterpiece. And not only Stagger Lee, Henry Lee is also so good. O'Malley's Bar, they do a rendition of Death Is Not the End, Bob Dylan song. And then one of their masterpieces, perhaps it's a bit of a pop song. I don't mind that. I love pop songs. Where the Wild Roses Grow. When a pop song is done this well, nobody is allowed to complain. At number 2, Murder Ballads. And before I go to number 1, everybody already knows the number 1. The amount of quality is just staggering here. And on top of that, Push the Sky Away. What's left to say about this album? It is solid. It is a new sound. It made me fall in love with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I play it over and over again. I play it in the car. I play it while on a road trip. It is the kind of music that sets in your heart, that sets a mood, that is defining. Everything I've said about great storytelling, it's here. Plus, new sound and new daring way. Push the Skyway is one of the many masterpieces of Nick Cave and Bad Seeds, and my number one choice. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below. Do your own ranking. I'd love to read that because I had a hard time coming on with this order. So please leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.